So I've had quite a few people asking me about this Makita saw stand that I'm using, what my thoughts are, how it varies to other saw stands. So what I'm going to do is go over some quick specifications and modifications I think should be in place for the saw stand so it can be more useful to the general carpenter in the future. So this is Makita's WST06. It is a part aluminium, part steel, part plastic saw stand used commonly for mitre saws or table saws. The saw stand's base is roughly about 800mm off the floor and features two extendable arms, one with a roller and one with a flat top. The full length of the base is 105cm unextended. And at full extension we have 258cm that you can comfortably rest material on from the outside of the roller to the outside of the flat edge on the other side. Both sides of the extendable table feature a height adjustable bracket. This one looks a little bit bent. I think that might have been from me though. There is slight movement with the adjustable arms. Once it is in position and tightened, it will wobble up and down quite a bit. However, I'm sure you can push it far down as possible. Adjust these mounts as high as you need for the mitre saw base that you're using. On the right hand side of the adjustable mount you have this flat top. It has two wing nuts on the outside that you can use to raise this panel in place. This acts as a basically stop block, so when you're cutting material at the same length repeatedly you can just butt into this panel, it'll give you the same measurement every time you cut. However, I'm not a big fan of this design because the mount itself, even if I tighten it at the bottom, it does have a tendency to wobble. And those millimetres can mean a lot of recutting and mistakes. You might notice as well this saw has a handle on one side. This is a tough plastic handle that is mounted onto the body of the saw stand. If you go onto the other side you'll notice these wheels. That means that you can collapse the saw down while it's still attached to the base and wheel it around so you're not carrying saw and stand separately. Now, I haven't been given this a bit of an off-road treatment. This is literally wear and tear from a flat surface floor. The whole wheel is plastic, there is no rubber, there is no impact support, there is no edge protection, there's no grip. This whole thing is worn just from little pieces of dirt or dust or stones on the floor. It's already breaking apart on the edges. It'd be a lot nicer if this was a rubber wheel. That way if you're rolling along this saw and you hit a bump, it's more likely to support the impact. Because it's plastic, it just wants to bounce, so this is a very unsecure wheel. Very cheap. These wheels are also mounted very close together. I'd like to be able to see the wheels be a bit further apart to take the weight of the saw, because this is a very top heavy saw. If the wheels are very narrow, you can imagine it wants to tilt and lean in every single direction. If you're pulling the saw along the floor on the wheels and it rolls over while you're carrying it, you'll be a very upset carpenter. I would know. I've dropped it a couple times and I've not been happy. The saw that I'm using is the LS1019. This is a big saw. A lot of the weight is focused towards the back, so if you have this mounted on the brackets, the majority of the weight is on this side of the stand, so you want to centralise this on the mounting brackets as central as possible so when you're carrying it, it doesn't want to roll over. It's been a massive issue I've had, so this whole saw has been pulled forward on the bench to allow for that weight. If I line up the back plate along here and mark where it falls on the level plate, I'm losing about half of that plate. This is never being used. So what I have been doing is taking this out and turning it around. You can see it's mounted more to one side. Put it back in that way around. That gives me a lot more surface area to work with. However, I won't be able to use the stop block method, but I'd never use that anyway, so I'd recommend, if you have a large saw like mine, this is how you turn your bracket. So the wing nuts are on the inside. On the roller side I can't really do the same thing because it is more facing on that side. If I mark it, that is being used. This is not being used. It's roughly about 50-50. If I turn that around, it's just going to be sat on that side more, so this is as much as I can get. Roughly about 90mm of coverage. To mount the saw onto the bench, you need to place it on top in line with the bracket mounts. and flip that little black lever over to one side so it locks into place. Should have probably cleaned this before I started recording. Located on the saw is a 13mm 1/2 inch socket wrench. Comes out just like that and sits back in there nice and easy. That's for any adjustments you need to do on the saw stand to make it more comfortable while you're cutting. The bolts for mounting the brackets to the saw come in the kit. They fit through the holes in the base of the saw that you're using, both sides, so you do need to have one at the front and one at the back. Some saws, like Hitachi saws, only have one in the middle, making it very difficult to fit these mounts. If you're going to be using the saw on the rollers to move it into position, these are the steps you need to follow. Once you have the saw on the bracket, make sure the weight is as central as possible so it doesn't tip over while you're moving. Take the weight of the saw on the wheel side and unclip the legs. Lower to the ground gently. Move over onto the handle side, do the same thing with the legs. And once you're happy that the saw is in a comfortable position to wheel, you can just move it away comfortably. I would recommend keeping one handle on the handle, one handle on the saw, so you have full contact and control over the saw while you're moving it. If you hit any bumps in the floor, the saw may roll, you could damage your saw. On the underside of these mounting brackets you have these rubber legs as well, so you can stand this on any flat surface and it shouldn't move around a lot. However, these are really easy to come off. I've already lost two. These wheels, they're way too close together. They're very narrow, so the saw wants to move when you're using the wheels in operation. The wheels are a fantastic addition, but they haven't really been thought through. This plastic will not stand up to any heavy duty, and if you're walking across building sites rolling this about, you're going to hit screws, offcuts of wood, just about anything, and as soon as you hit that one little stone, all of that weight is going to transfer to one side. Throwing your saw over, you could be damaging your saw or your stand or both, or even yourself. So these wheels need to be more heavy duty. It's a heavy duty site, it's a heavy duty stand for a heavy duty tool. These are not heavy duty. Also, these side extending mounting brackets, they should be able to slide left and right, I feel, to accommodate any bases. So far you can only go up and down with this. You cannot extend the bracket out to the side to accommodate a saw base that is further forward. I'm not a fan of these buttons to release the legs either. If you have cold hands or gloves on, they can be really difficult to get your thumb in there to push it. I do like DeWalt's handle. They have like a black handle that I think you either pull it or you push it and it releases the legs in the same method. I'm not sure if that design is patented by DeWalt, but it'd be nice to see something similar so that if you do have thick gloves on or anything while you're working, you could just pull or push that lever and it will release the legs comfortably. It's nice and compact when you fold it up. The arms do extend out quite a bit, although they are a bit wobbly. That also needs addressing. Those arms are way too wobbly. It needs to be a stronger fixing point than this plastic dial. I feel that would break quite easily. It's already doing some damage onto the side of the arm where I have been drawing it in. Don't know if you can see it on the camera. I would worry that there's a bit too much room for movement in there. Do I think it's a good saw stand? It's good in some aspects, but I feel that it is just your basic saw stand. I don't feel that Makita have thought about this being in a heavy duty user's hands. But it does the job for me, so I'll keep using it. Nothing dramatically has fallen off it yet. If anything does happen in the future, I'll let you know. I post a lot of my content on Instagram, so if you search online for Fill Your Pockets on Instagram, you should see my page. I upload quite a lot of construction content, lots of tool reviews, and woodworking occasionally, so if you're interested in any of that stuff, feel free to give me a follow. I do stories now and again too. And if you do give me a follow, that would be much appreciated. That's it. That was Makita's WST06 Mitre saw stand.